Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. This is your host Carmina, astrologer, card reader, and human design aficionado. And today we have with us again astrologer Levi Cosijn. Welcome back, Levi.
Hi Carmina, thanks for having me.
He was conducting a research about childbirths and how they show up astrologically. So I showed him the chart of this lady, this client of mine who has had 3 children. And he decided to also double check with Varshaphala, and what he found was very interesting. He asked me actually if this person had a difficult childbirth with the first child, because it clearly showed up in the Varshaphala chart. And then I asked this person, and she confirmed that indeed it was a difficult delivery. So I thought that this would be an interesting example to show you guys how Varshaphala works. Varshaphala is what they call solar returns, and of course we have more than we have in Western astrology with solar returns. We also have Shahams, we have other things, and we will see that in Levi's presentation. Levi, do you have a screen for us?
Sure.
I have to say that this lady had 3 children, the first at 29, the second at 31, and the third at 32. And we're going to be looking at all the births, how they show up in the year chart, and also see how difficult or easy it was on the person.
Yes.
So go ahead.
So Varshaphala, the fruit of the year, right? This is what it means. So the solar return. And so what is important, of course, I'm not going to explain calculations and so on, but I'll just briefly touch on some of the concepts important in reading a Varshaphala chart as I do it. So what is important is the ascendant, of course. The ascendant is always the self factor. The ascendant lord will be important in the way it connects to certain points in the horoscope, connected to certain areas in life. Then there's the munta, which is an important point, which is Libra in this case. And you can already see that Libra is the 5th house from Gemini. This is the Gemini ascendant. So we see that the ascendant lord, Mercury, is in the 5th house in the munta, which is going to be which is already showing child emphasis, a child focus. Then the Varshapati lord is the year lord, who's Mercury also. See, so here we already see Rahu's there too. Rahu is always important when children are coming, or birth, or any important event actually. Rahu. But Rahu in Gemini is considered one of the child-giving planets. Because it's such a intense and drastic change in a person's destiny, right? When you put a child on earth. And so here it's very clear that the focus is that of the ascendant and year lord in the munta, in the 5th house. So the munta will be a year focus. It will be a domain in life, an area in life that year will be very important. And so we're going to look at the condition of that planet, the dignity of that planet. It's Hada, it's Trirashi, it's Navamsha, it's Drekana. Also, it's Panchavargiya Bala, which shows the prominence of the planet, and it's Dvadashavargiya Bala, which shows the auspiciousness. And Harsha has to do with the juice that the planet has behind it. Okay, just briefly touching on it. So here we see, for example, that the ascendant Lord Mercury and also Varshapati Lord Mercury has 9.549 points. And so whenever a planet is above 5, let's say, it becomes a player in that year. But above 10, it's going to be very prominent. So around 10, it's like it has good strength and prominence to make things happen in that year. So it's more than enough. But we see that the Dvadashavargiya Bala, the auspiciousness, is -12. This is a very inauspicious ascendant lord, and also Varshapati year lords. So this shows the person will have to deal with some physical challenges. right? Now, of course, in Varshaphala, we don't singly use the lords of the houses. We use shahams, or in Western astrology or Hellenistic astrology, equivalent to the lots, right? Like the lot of fortune and so on. So here in Varshaphala, it's the punya shaham. It's what, you know, they're called shahams, which are calculated in a very particular way. It's by combining planets and the ascendant and so on. So it's a very mathematically elaborate and profound system, I think, and it gives amazing results. I think it was Edgar Cayce who said that, you know, the Varshaphala part of astrology, which is, of course, the Persian system, is, you know, one of the most accurate in the sense that it can give the most concrete results, you know. And in here you'll see how simple it really is and how strong the childbirths are indicated with very simple parameters, you know. So the calculations must be there must be something to it, most surely. All right, so the shaham for child delivery was, delivery of the child is the Prashava shaham, which is Aquarius. We also have, you know, there's a progeny shaham, which is, you know, what the word says it, right? It's for conception and so on. So I'm going to look at the Aquarius Rashi to look at how it's connected to the south factors, which are the Lord of the Munta or the Varshapati or the Ascendant Lord, and how they connect. So here, Aquarius is the 11th cusp and 10th cusp Lord. It's also the 9th house from the Ascendant. See? So it has a child, which is the 5th from the 5th, which has a child, you know, related, which has a child connotation is what I'm trying to say. Also the moon here rules Venus, which is the 5th Lord, right? And Venus rules the Varshapati. And also, it's also the Munta Lord, Venus, right? See? And then also Mars is there, who rules the 9th Lord. So there's some brief connections. We can also look at, you know, the normal Parashar style of doing astrology for this. But we see that Saturn, the ruler of Aquarius, the Shaham Lord for children, delivery of child, is in Itasala yoga, so an approaching yoga of, you know, what is the word? I'm not sure how to say it in Western astrology, but it's Itasala, so it's approaching. So Venus, Mercury.
It's applying.
Or applying, that's the word, exactly. Thank you. Mercury, the Ascendant Lord, also the Varshapati Lords, in the 5th house is already is a clear indication, but it's approaching to Saturn, right? They're within orb. Mercury has a 7-degree orb, and Saturn a 9-degree orb. And Saturn is retrograde, it's debilitated. So here we see the child giving Shaham Lord is debilitated. It's with Ketu, so it indicates some problems, right?
I think, if I'm not mistaken, that Aries was the progeny Shaham also.
The progeny, but here we're looking at the delivery of the child.
Yes.
Right? No, we see that Saturn is debilitated. It's very weak in Panchavargiya Bala, and it's very inauspicious. See, so the fact that, you know, both Mercury and Saturn are really inauspicious. It's the most inauspicious a planet can be. Of course, if we look at dignity, Mercury is in a great friend sign. Well, no, not a great friend sign. Mercury is connected to, in an enemy sign because of the enmity with Venus, its Lord. We're not going to use Parashara dignity stuff here, right? So this is Tajika dignity. So on relationships. So Saturn is debilitated. So it gives, most surely indicates problems with the first delivery. So I was saying they're approaching, they're enclosing, right? And Itasala yoga from Mercury, the Ascendant Lord, to the Shaham Lord Saturn, which is also in this chart the 9th Lord, and also the Lord of Jupiter. And Jupiter here, as the natural indicator of children, is debilitated also in the 8th house. So my first question when you gave me the chart, I said, is this something must have been, you know, really difficult, but apparently the child was delivered and the child was healthy, but it turned out that the mother had some issues, right?
Yes, the labor, she said it lasted 36 hours and they had to give her 40 stitches and she had fever and the son had to go on intensive care for 9 days before they went home. So there is also a problem with the baby, you know.
Mm-hmm. Right. See, so Varshaphala can show many things in that respect. I didn't really look further, like in terms of what was really actually supporting it, because if you see a chart like that, it could be really dramatic also. See, but it's not, and so there's some other reasons for that, of course. But here we're just looking at the childbirth, right? So we see the first and ascendant lord and Varshapati lord in the fifth house, enclosing or aspecting its inimical aspect, right? It's an what is it? Open enmity, right? So there's a tension. It shows tension, this opposition here, but it's gonna, you know, make sure that the delivery, the child birth happens, and this is indicated also Venus, the lord of the fifth, because it's good to have the fifth or ninth lords involved as well in that transit, I mean, in the connecting of these planets. And here, you know, that's both. I would prefer the fifth lord, of course, because the ninth is the fifth from the fifth. So most directly would be Venus. Venus and Mercury are not really an aspect, because Venus also has a 7-degree orb, Mercury too. That's 14 degrees. So together they're out of orb, you know, they're combined. They're out of the orb of combined orb, right? But the ninth lord Saturn is really doing it, and there's lots of indications for it.
Yeah, also the sixth lord is debilitated, Mars.
Sixth lord is debilitated, and also I think, you know, it's good that if someone would ask you, like, how's with a chart like that, how will my birth chart, my birth, you know, delivery be? It would be a tricky thing, you know.
Yeah, you know, she said it's better that I didn't know in advance, because why would you want to know that?
Yes. Mm-hmm. There's also things we can look at here in terms of, you know, the strength and endurance of planets and the prominence of planets in the hadas also. And this will show, because here Jupiter is in its own hada, for example. And then there's some other indications as well as how these planets will actually do, how the dignity of these planets is going to be strongly determined by its hada also. Okay, but I'm not going to go into it here. So that's for the first child. It's very, very clearly shown. It was in the Muda Dasha of Venus Mercury. And yeah, Venus is, of course, the lord of the Munta. And Mercury is the ascendant lord in the fifth house, connected to the Shaham lord Saturn, who's also the ninth lord, the lord of all these planets, and also the lord of Jupiter, and so on. So yeah, it's quite clear.
Yeah, it's a clear example. Now maybe we can look at the next two children at 31 and 32 to see if the deliveries were maybe better.
So when she was 31, she had her second child. So what do we see here is the Munta was Sagittarius. Varshapati is Mercury also. Here we see that Mercury rules the ninth cusp, which is, you know, the fifth from the fifth cusp. The ascendant lord is Venus. So we see the fifth lord is Saturn again. South factors are the Varshapati, the Munta lord, and the ascendant lord. So we have Venus, Mercury. Venus and Mercury are together, so it's easy to check. And then Jupiter here is also, as the Munta lord, is strong in its own sign in Pisces. Okay, so these guys are not aspecting. So Jupiter is not aspecting Mars, Mercury, or Venus. The Moon and Saturn are in an inimical aspect, and then Saturn and these planets are in an inimical aspect. So there's a lot of you know, tension going on that year, but at the same time we have the sun, which is always going to be important in a Varshaphala chart, because, you know, it's you know, the sun that goes back to its point and to its natal point, and it's in a trine with Saturn, who is the fifth lord. So here we do see some, you know, if we generally look at it, some promise. So what to look at is Venus. Just if we're not taking into consideration Shahams, we see that Saturn, the fifth lord, and the ascendant lord Venus are in 9, 7, so it would be 16, are in a yoga. It's a yoga of tension also. It's a separating yoga. so it doesn't really show much, but they are connected, right? So we have a first and fifth connection, and of course first and ninth we have Venus and Mercury here connected in an Ishrafa yoga. Well, it's not technically, right? It's when they're within 1 degree. So, but let's say it's very, very close. It's going to be something that is going to be prominent and important during that year. Whenever you have two planets, especially connected to all these Munta, Varshapati points and ascendants, and the important Shahams, it's going to show prominence that year. You know, that event will be important. Now let's look at the Shaham, and you know, the delivery of the child Shaham is Gemini, which is the ninth lord, and this is showing exactly, you know, excuse me, it's in the 11th house, which is also the fifth from the 7th house. The 7th is the spouse, and the 5th is of course child. So I would look at the 11th more in terms of the husband, right? The partner. So men's chart who get, you know, of which the women, of who the wife delivers a child, or the girlfriend or whatever, because it's the woman that delivers, right? So it's going to be much more prominent in her chart. It should be. And so, yeah, that's also something very interesting, is how we distinguish between men's horoscopes and women's horoscopes, for example, this kind of thing. And see how that also changes. Some areas in life are going to change throughout history, and how cultures evolve, and how, you know, women's rights came and so on. So it's changing, also it's morphing. But this is something that is going to be always like that, right? I mean, at least for the near future, right? Men are not able to deliver children. So, but the 11th house would also be an indication. So yeah, the Shaham is, what is important is that the Shaham is very, very crucial in Varshaphala, like the way these are assigned certain areas in life, and there's 50, 52, there's even more, but it's so amazing how—
I see that sorry to interrupt, I see that the Munta Lord Jupiter is very strong. It has like 13 points, it has +9, it has Harsha, it has a lot of passion, 15, and it's also in its own sign. So that's very good for that, because Jupiter is children in general, and it's also the Munta Lord. So
yes, absolutely. And the year before, I mean 2 years before, when we looked at the first child, we saw that Jupiter was debilitated and so on, with a lot of debilitation. This one should have been better or easier. Then we look at, if we look at the Shaham Lord Mercury, it's very prominent. It's still not super auspicious, you know. I mean, it's in fact it's inauspicious, but it's very, very prominent, and it's not like you know, this is, you know, in the dignities in the Vargas, right? It's in 2 Vargas, it's positively dignified. In 7, it's negatively dignified. But combine that with Jupiter here, who's very strong, super auspicious, and has strong passion, I mean, strong strength and juice behind it, very prominent planet. Then also the, well, the Ascendant Lord is also a little weak here, right? So you see it here. But Jupiter is also the Munta Lord, which is also a self point. And of course, relating to children as the natural indicator, it's going to be more dominant. So I think this one was probably also some tension, surely, but easier than the previous childbirth, for sure.
Yeah, the next 2 deliveries, she said they were easy, but you know, the Varshaphala chart shows like everything that happens in that year. So maybe there was some other tension that is not related to children.
Yes, because we also see that the 7th Lord Mars is here, and this is an inimical conjunction, is an inimical aspect, right? But it's an open enmity, so it's something that is
something clear.
Yeah, then would be showing. It's also a separating. You know, we see that the Ascendant Lord is separating from that point here, and here they're in a neutral relationship, and so it's not really going to tell too much. We also see that the Moon is whenever the Moon connects to the Varsha, to yoga-giving planets, let's say, it's going to be more prominent. And here we see that the Moon is approaching to Mercury and to Venus. This is a very important point, making it even more significant. See, this is a powerful point. All right, should we move on to the next one?
Yes.
So the next, her last child was
32.
Yes, at her 32nd birthday. So what we have here again, the Munta is Capricorn. Capricorn is the ascendant, so a strong self-focus that year. Mercury is the 6th lord and also the 9th lord from the ascendant. So again, we see some, based on, you know, normal rules, we see some 5th from the 5th, some child connotation. The sun is there also. As I mentioned, the sun is always going to be important. The sun also rules, you know, the 9th lord. It also rules the 5th lord Venus, right? And it rules Rahu. So this is already important, and gives some indication. We see that the ascendant lord is in the 5th house, you know, and it's with Jupiter, very strongly showing. And all right, so now if we look a little further, then we see, well, Varshaphala is Mercury. The Munta lord is...
Isn't interesting that Varshaphala was always Mercury?
It's always Mercury. So it's something for her Mercury. And now in our birth chart, we can look at what Mercury is really actually doing in our birth chart. But, you know, here the Munta, it's not only the ascendant lord, it's also the Munta lord. Saturn is in the 5th house with Jupiter. So it's super clear. And if you look at some general indications, it's also going to show that Varshaphala is the 9th lord, you know, also, and so on. So, but the Shaham should be very, you know, should be nailing it. And the delivery of the child was what? Virgo. And what's Virgo? The 9th house. The sun is in there, who rules all these points. And Mercury is, of course, the lord connected to the ascendant lord and the Munta lord as well in the yoga. It's a separating yoga. But, you know, here, separating yogas shows that the event has its roots in the past, right? So conception happens first, and then, you know, delivery of the child happens. You can look at it like that too. So separating not always means negative. I mean, this is not true. This is not happening. It means that it is based on an event that has its roots, has its beginning in the past, the recent past, we could say, you know, I mean, like within the year and a half.
I just checked her chart, and Mercury is the 5th lord in the 5th house, and it's also the Putra Karaka, the child Karaka in the 8th scheme.
Wow, that's wonderful. So here we have a very clear case of how these things work on a very concrete level. Now, Jupiter itself was not really auspicious here. It was not really strong in Panchavargiya, but I mean, strong enough. Then Mercury was Gemini, right? So Mercury is prominent and also not really auspicious. So it seems like, you know, that whenever she gave birth, I mean, it should have been like a quite stressful time for her. If you look at the auspiciousness to all these points, you know, let's see, the most important planet here is the moon, which is very auspicious that time, which is her relationship, the 7th house. So maybe she got more support during that period of her spouse or something like that. Like there was more supportive. If you look at Shaham wise, what Cancer represents, it's auspicious, right? It's the Punya Shaham, which is the point that you can really benefit from that year, who's super auspicious. So in general,
I see that. I'm sorry. I see that Mars is like like really strong that year. I mean, in terms of Harsha, it's also in its own sign, and it's the 4th sign and 11th lord. So maybe she had more satisfaction with that year, because we're now looking at just childbirth, but there was, you know, everyone has a lot going on in a year, not just
Absolutely.
one.
And also, it's the point that you bring up about dignity is very important. Dignity is crucial. I mean, it's showing so much and also whether a planet falls in its Hada, Trirashi, Draken, or Navamsha is going to be important. So here, let's say, I don't really see any points here. Just one second. Well, Mars falls in its Trirashi, so Mars definitely is going to be an important player. And Mars is ruling what? So we had Cancer as a Punya Shaham, like auspiciousness, 7th house stuff is going to be very auspicious for her that year. And also considering then, you know, look at this is perfect, you know.
Mars is her soul planet also, so.
Now, yes, and Mars, if we look at Scorpio Shaham, for example, and also for that matter, Aries, but it's in the sign of Scorpio, so it's going to be more prominent. Then we can see, for example, just scan through it, Scorpio.
I saw other work in the second one.
Here?
The second
one.
one.
Other work, Danya Karma Shaham is important, can also be in terms of moving.
Yes.
Like a move, because Mars is, of course, the Karaka. I don't know if she actually moved because Mars is also the 4th lord from the ascendant. I would look more at the house cusp, but It is the fourth lord from the ascendant. Anya Karma is very important. It's in its own sign. I don't know, maybe she moved that year or something like that, if it's connected
I'm gonna ask her.
because it's super strongly connected to the ascendant lord and also the Varshapati lord, the Munta lord, excuse me. You know, and there's some tension involved, but here we see like this tension is making things happen, right? So yeah, that would be also interesting to see and to know how it played out for her, like Scorpio. Anya Karma Shaham works really well for moving. You see some other Scorpio here.
Infatuation.
Yeah, that's the only thing I saw. Yeah, so there's these Shahams are very, and there's more of them, but these work, I mean, really well. And some of them you just wonder what it is, right? I don't know how infatuation, how that would played out for her, for example. You can ask her.
Yeah, maybe she was passionate about something, some other work that Scorpio is there. So I'm gonna ask.
Yeah, it's in the 10th house also here, near the 11th cusp. See, so it's very, very showing. I love it because it's so clean cut. And it's not always going to be like that. Sometimes you're going to see that it's more complicated. But if you combine, because here we have the Varshapati, we have the Shaham Lord, so let me repeat. We want self factors connected to Jupiter, due to the Shaham Lord of delivery, the child. But we also want the 5th lord involved or the 9th lord involved, because this is, you know, what is underlying that. I mean, this is how these Shahams are created, right? It's the underlying principle and logic. And so here that would be Venus, and Venus is connected to that, right? See, Venus is retrograde, so it's in fact approaching to Saturn, right? Venus is separating from Saturn, but it's retrograde, so it's going back. And so, and it's within, what is it, 5 degrees or something. So, you know, it's clearly aspected. So here we have all the rules that that need to be fulfilled.
Yes.
All the conditions are fulfilled that to deliver that from the Varshaphala chart.
Yes.
So yeah, I think in terms of prediction, it's just go.
Yeah, childbirth, of course, it's not easy, but we can do our best. We can look at Varshaphala, we can look at other techniques and see the congruence of
if you want, like you know, when you're going to meet your spouse or something, you're going to have a relationship, just, you know, ask an astrologer for Varshaphala and to look at like that, and it will be very clearly showing. I mean, most cases.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you very much, Levi, for showing us this example of Varshaphala. I don't think I have many Varshaphala, if not at all, videos on my chart. Maybe I have one mentioning it, but not, you know, going so much into it. So I think that would be very interesting for everyone to see, to consider this technique if they're not using it already. Levi has his website, levicosijn.com. I'm going to link it down below. He has his YouTube channel, Levi Cosijn Astrology. Also, you'll find it in the link below. You can find there more videos, interviews that he's been doing. So yeah, check out his channel also, subscribe. And thank you, Levi, again for joining us. Maybe we'll see you again soon.
Thank you, Carmina. Yeah.
Okay, see you guys soon. Bye.